What we have here is a display of stick and ball games, kind of the ancestors, predecessors to baseball, how baseball evolved into the game that we know it is today. And they range and vary from different origins. For instance, we start off right here with Stool Ball. Stool Ball is still played today over in England. The early version of Stool Ball was actually played by milkmaids in the fields, and what they would use is the actual milking stools, and they would use a paddle and a ball and hit it back and forth and try to hit it between the actual legs of the milking stool. So and then the game evolved to a more modern game. They actually use a paddle now with a smaller version of a baseball, and they run back and forth and actually will touch the paddle to the scoring post, and that will count as a tally. Also, we have a game that is played today still over in pubs in England, and it's called Bat and Trap. There's actually two traps across from each other on a lawn surface, and what they do, they would take the paddle, strike the lever, and that would thrust the ball up into the air. Then they would strike the ball toward the other trap at the far end of the lawn, hoping to hit the target and knock it down with striking the target with the ball and knocking it down. That would count as a tally or an ace, and that is a game bat and trap. We have another game that was played in the 16th, 17th centuries, an early version. It's called Trap Ball or Current Spell. And what the children would do at the time, they would take the paddle and strike this piece of wood, which would catapult the ball up into the air, and then they would hit the ball with the paddle toward a scoring post or a scoring target. And that is current spell or trap and ball. Another ancestor of baseball that we have is a game called Rounders, and Rounders is also still played in leagues, mainly girl leagues and schools over in England right now. But Rounders has been around for quite a while, a couple centuries, and this is an early version of a Rounders bat and ball. The bat, as you can see, is not very long, probably about 16, 18 inches long, and the ball is similar to a baseball, figure eight pattern, stitching, but a little smaller than a modern baseball, which is about 9 inches in circumference. And this is a Rounders bat and ball that is currently used today, that is from a league over in England. One of the other pieces in my collection that I have is a early handmade bat and a handmade ball. This particular ball is actually made out of wood. It's rounded somewhat, kind of oval shape. This particular bat is hand carved. It's flat on one side and kind of rounded on the other. That bat and ball could have been used for a couple different stick and ball games, possibly maybe an early cricket, a handmade cricket set, or even a town ball type of set that they could have used. We move on to the game of cricket, which is also currently played over in England. Cricket has been around for quite a few centuries. Very, very popular game, and it is a close ancestor to baseball. Many cricket players traveled from England over here to the United States and began playing early version of baseball in the 1840s, 1850s time period. One of the more popular cricket players that led into baseball was actually Harry Wright. This is a picture of Harry Wright and his father Sam, and Harry was an early cricket player and also formed the 1869 Cincinnati Red Stockings, which is the first professional baseball team. The cricket, a lot of the equipment used in cricket is very similar to the early baseball equipment that we see as it evolved, particularly the catcher's shin guards and the gloves and stuff that baseball players would wear beginning around the 1870s, 1880s. Okay, and we're continuing talking about cricket now. Cricket is a particular game that is divided up into sides, and it's also structured around the use of umpires also. The thrower would actually have a ball like this. It's stitched around the center and also has some stitching on the one side. He would actually back up and then run toward the striker with the cricket paddle. He would throw the ball, would hit the ground, and then the striker would come up with the cricket paddle and actually strike the ball as it came off the ground in a direction particularly where he could try to direct the ball in one area or another his liking. From there we move on to the wicket, which is actually the scoring post. They would try to knock the bails off at the top of the wickets, and these are the bails which are just set up on top of the stakes in this sort of fashion, the three stakes in between, and when you would knock a bail off, that would score and count as your run. And from cricket we move on to town ball, which is the closest ancestor to baseball. Town ball was a game that was played in New York, Massachusetts areas by more affluent children and young men of the time period. Has a baseball that is actually a lemon peel shaped cut fashion, similar to the later baseballs, a little smaller, a little softer. One of the rules of town ball, you can actually throw the ball at a runner, which is called soaking the runner, and actually get that runner out. That was one of the ways of actually getting an out in town ball. The bats were quite a bit smaller, as you can see. Probably used to actually place the ball in a particular area or particular direction that you would like to hit the ball. You can actually run backwards or forwards in town ball. You can start from the right side or left side. So it's not unlike baseball where you would actually go toward first base in the diamond-shaped pattern. Town ball fields was actually laid out in a square or rectangle. And also the number of players on a town ball team could vary from 9 to 12 to 14, as many as 16, 18 players per side. So that's some of the ancestors of baseball. And here you see what we brought here today is some of the memorabilia, some of the equipment that they would use in these particular stick and ball games.